Let's talk a little bit about the magnetic fields in 3D. As there is nothing better than a practice, I'll use the SWMF magnetosphere cuts. But first let's move to 3 dimensions. Some time ago, I was using this software to guess the possible location of a celestial object, which could be responsible for the electromagnetic disturbances. I'll use it again to show you the magnetic field in the field. As you probably know, there are 3-dimensional axes in the known universe: X, Y, and Z. If we take only 2 of them, they will create a plane. There are 3 planes as well: XY, XZ, and YZ. Together they describe the position of an object in 3D environment. But in the case of this software, those dimensions are not attached to any physical point of reference. This is the X-axis. In the case of SWMF monitors, X-axis depends on the orientation of Sun towards the Earth. It's the line connecting both objects. You can say that this frame of reference is dynamic, as Earth is moving all the time along its orbit. But leave it like it is. Now GSM dimensions, those used by SWMF, and those in the software are the same. Exactly the same dimensions are being used to describe the values of magnetic field Bx, By and Bz. It means as well that the magnetic orientation of the IMF supposed to depend on the position of the Sun. If you learn physics in the school, you should remember the right-hand rule, which says that the magnetic field lines have to be perpendicular to the direction of current flow. And because in the case of solar wind particles are moving along the x-axis, magnetic orientation of the IMF should change only on the ZY plane. On this plane, the field lines can be placed at totally different angles, as they will anyway remain perpendicular to the x-axis. Most important is the BZ component, which is responsible for the geomagnetic storms. Now, let's go back to Iswa. Those of you who watch my movies for a longer time should remember when I pointed out the magnetic connection which is taking place along the tilted BZ magnetic component, just as this one. If you'll keep in mind that the magnetic components are directly connected with the GSM coordinates, you will understand that this flux tube simply can't be caused by the Sun. Our star would have to change its position to fit into this frame of reference. Those of you who've seen the episode where I was explaining the same process should remember as well that I've pointed out the orientation of second magnetic component in the field which is affecting solar system. It was the BY component, and at the time when I was recording the movie it was parallel to the Y dimension, equal to our BY. Bx was tilted as well, and I managed to guess all three magnetic values of the field which is affecting us. This is how look the components of both magnetic fields. Where this one is heliosphere. By components are the same in both cases. However, after some time which passed since I recorded the movie, something changed. Just look at this flux tube. It looks that the By component of the low energy field is no longer equal to the By in heliosphere. This means that the entire frame of reference changed again, and I have to make an update. Now the magnetic components of low energy field look like this. But what all of this means? Quite a lot, if you keep in mind that the field lines are always perpendicular to current flow. Using those coordinates, we can guess the position of a hypothetical object which could be the source of this magnetic field. If we learn which axis is the Bx component, we will be able to guess the directions in which we should look for the possible source. If you were listening to me carefully, or if you are smart enough, you should already guess that it is possible to point out the Bx component of low energy field. You just need to keep in mind that the Bx component is directly connected with the direction of current flow. So all we need to do is to watch for the direction in which the discharge particles are being pulled or pushed. I'll make it easy for you. Just watch those tiny vectors. The deformation of magnetotail shows that this direction is probably the good one. So this is the Bx component of low energy field. Now I can make another step forward. Let's look how the low energy field magnetic components changed in time. It looks that the movie in which I've pointed out the low energy field magnetic components first time was published on 29th of April. It looks that right now Earth and Sun make a line which points exactly towards the nose of heliosphere. That means near Scorpius constellation. What is matching the dimensions in my 3D model. However, when we change the time to 29th of April, Earth positions will change. I need to keep this in mind when I will update my model. And what can we see here? It looks that those coordinates are more or less parallel to each other. Of course, this method is far from being perfect, but it looks that it works. If I would have to point out a possible direction of the source, I will show you this region. Somewhere between Centaurus and Lupus.